Good afternoon, Year 7. Welcome back to another week of the Village Project. Before we get on to that, the do now as ever is to do with the Wind in the Willows. Imagine the story of the Wind in the Willows continues after the end that we read. I want you to pick a character and write a short paragraph saying what you think they would be doing. So after the end of the story, for example, Mr. Toad's got his big house back, what would he be doing? He'd probably carry on in much the same way, wouldn't he? What would Mole be doing? Would he have moved closer to Ratty? Would their friendship have, continued in the same way? What would Ratty have done? Would just a brief paragraph. Pick one character and write a little paragraph saying what it is you think they would do after the end of the story. Then go on to the next slide. I'll give you 5 minutes for that. Our learning objective today is to explore the different effects of the lockdown in our village. So the title is Exploring the Effects of Lockdown on the Village. So we've brought it right up to date for today. So get that title into your books and then go on to the next slide. And today we're going to be thinking about the vulnerable people in our village during lockdown. So this is the village of Roseham that we're talking about, and we're going to be looking out for the vulnerable people in it. Now, the first thing we're going to do is to make a list of all the things that you do differently under lockdown. I know that my study's looking a little bit like that chap's room there, actually. Well, it's not quite as bad as that, but we're not perhaps, we're in the house all the time, so perhaps it's not as tidy as it would be. Maybe we get up at a different time. Maybe you imagine there's lots of things that you aren't doing that you would normally be doing, like sort of clubs and things that you normally go to. So just make a quick list of all the things that you're doing differently under lockdown. Just 5 minutes there. Here's some of the things that that are different for a lot of people. I think certainly me. Lots of Zoom meetings there. And that's to do with meeting up with other teachers and also friends and so on. I've had some parties on Zoom. I don't know about you. Lots of online quizzing. Been eating too much. I think that's fair enough. I wouldn't worry about that. Indoor exercise, doing puzzles, things that you might not have done before. And on the bottom right there, are you having arguments with your siblings, perhaps, and parents that you wouldn't otherwise have had? Try not to do that. It's difficult for everybody, but I'm sure there have been flashpoints. There certainly have been in my house. So that's my list. You can add yours to that just for 5 minutes, and then on to the next slide. Here's some slightly different things. Exercising indoors. I must admit, I haven't got to the stage for that young lady there with the sofa. That looks like quite a good idea, though. Birthdays under lockdown are obviously incredibly different than they would otherwise be, and haircuts. My hair's looking a tremendous mess, and I really don't know what to do about it, but I certainly don't want it to end up like any of those ones there. The one, 2, 3 from the left on the top row, that's like 2 haircuts, isn't it? Anyway, I'd love to see some pictures of your haircuts. Well, your hair when we get back, I guess, because you won't have had a chance to have it cut by then. Anyway, just some suggestions there of the way we're doing things differently now that we're under lockdown. So doing some persuasive writing again there. Those dots before prepared will become obvious in a minute, but that's going to be Roseham prepared. It's going to be like a news sheet that's been put together under lockdown so we can look out for vulnerable people. So we've looked at how life has changed for you indoors over lockdown, but how has it changed in your area under lockdown? There's some people, I guess, they're celebrating VE Day there. Those were street parties where people couldn't actually get together. They had to just sit outside their houses. Concerts in the street, lots of people playing music in the street. And here's some local businesses. Heater's Bakery, Prince and Sons, Family Butchers, they're all having to do things very differently these days. There's the social distancing there outside the shops. But what if a person cannot go out because, for example, they have underlying health problems? Their children or someone they live with who has underlying health problems. They're elderly, they aren't very mobile. They are self-isolating because they think they may be ill from the virus. Well, there's been lots of volunteering going on. People getting prescriptions for older people, getting shopping for older people, and generally that's been one of the positive aspects of this lockdown, is that people have shown themselves to be very caring for the most part. A lot of people imagine that when these types of things happen, that the world's going to, society's going to implode and everyone's going to be looting. That never happens. People are better than that. They always do the right thing. And that's been good to see over these last weeks. Now we're going to look at a web page from a real action group in Horsell that is giving community support. It's on the next slide. I will attach it as well, but it's on the next slide if you're not unable to print it out. There we are. I won't read that out because it's not sort of beautiful prose or anything, but it's a lovely thing because it's an action group that's been put together to help people in Horsell who might be struggling for the reasons that we talked about just a moment ago. And this is the type of thing that we're going to put together for Roseham. So have a look through it, and then we'll break it down on the next few slides. So just read it. Now here's the opening paragraph. Horsell prepared, so ours would be Roseham prepared. Providing community support to Horsell residents self-isolating or in need due to coronavirus. Horsell Prepared is Horsell's homegrown community-led resilience group and is part of Horsell Residents Association. Now it's important that people know that this is a group that can be trusted because it's not impossible that somebody might set up a dodgy group to take advantage of people. So they've straight away in that first paragraph they said that they're to do with the Horsell Residents Association. What about structural techniques? Can you see any structural techniques there? Now I want you to read the rest of the web page and find a quotation for each of these questions. How many volunteers work for Horsell Prepared? How can Horsell Prepared help the authorities? What jobs have Horsell Prepared been mostly doing? Why do Horsell Prepared ask callers to their helpline to be patient? How many street level WhatsApp groups are there in Horsell? So find quotations that answer all those questions, all 5 of those quotations and questions, and write them into your book. The main structural technique in this is the use of direct address. And direct address is when the speaker in a piece of writing talks directly to you. Our, we, you. It makes everyone feel like they're all in it together. So just copy that definition of direct address into your books because it's a very powerful thing to use in persuasive speeches. We need to get used to using it and knowing how to identify it. So copy that into your books. That'll just take you 5 minutes. Quick reminder here, Year 7, of the persuasive writing techniques. We've been over this many times. I imagine you know them all by heart now. If you don't and you're not sure, then write this into your books. But we should pretty much be there with the persuasive writing techniques now. Okay, here's the last paragraph of the web page, and I've annotated here where the persuasive devices have been used. So direct address, to appeal by speaking directly to people. Repetition of rhetorical questions, there's 2 right there. Emotional language, exaggeration, and emotional language again. You don't always have to use all of Da Forest. You just use the ones that are appropriate. You should probably use you would use at least 4 or 5 in each piece of writing, but you don't have to use them all. And now it's over to you. Your village, Roseham, has set up its own action group, Roseham Prepared. I want you to write a persuasive paragraph using Da Forest techniques to persuade your local community to volunteer. Look at the web page for the Horsell one that we looked at for inspiration, and then write your own. As ever, I'd love to see them. Yes, good luck with that. Send me your work if you can. I'll put my email address on class charts and I'll speak to you tomorrow. Thank you, Year 7.